Hey everyone, we're back.
We are back.
Almost 2 years later.
Yeah.
Talking about Game of Thrones again.
It's
oh my god.
it's invaded our lives at this point. We got our Game of Thrones Oreos. Not sponsored by Oreo, but that would be awesome if we were.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Shout out to Oreo.
Shout out to Oreos. So this episode was the first in 20 months.
Yeah, it was like 595 days, I think.
Jeez, that's a long time. Man.
Yeah, this whole week I've just been not really thinking about anything else. Endgame is far from my mind, like everything. It's just been Game of Thrones. I had a counter on my phone for the last, I don't know, literally 8 months.
You had a counter on
I
your
had
phone?
a counter on my phone next to my wedding counter.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's how serious it is.
Oh, my god.
Game of Thrones is life.
Yeah, man, this was crazy. Okay, so it's been a long time since we watched Game of Thrones. I know you were catching up on some of the episodes.
Yeah, catching some highlights all week. HBO's been doing a season a day, trying to catch up here and there.
Right. We just got 6 left.
Yeah.
This is one. Now we got 5 left.
5 left, yeah. 5 weeks.
Oh no, I can count the episodes left in one hand now. Not good.
Man.
Okay, so yeah, this just the entire time I was like eyes glued to the TV. Like, I mean, every second that's happening during the season is going to be noteworthy because it's the finale of everything that we've been watching for the past 8 years.
Everything is really, really coming together very fast. Full circle. A lot of old storylines, arcs, character arcs that we haven't seen in so long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're seeing each other again, different characters. Jon and Bronn. Like it's just.
I love the opening. Let's talk about that really quick.
Okay.
So we had this is basically Arya's perspective of seeing Jon come in with Daenerys and the Unsullied army and the Dothraki army and all the stuff that he brought back with him from joining forces with Daenerys in more ways than one. And,
good old Auntie Daenerys.
Right. We'll get into that later. So, seeing like her reaction to first, like all of the Unsullied coming in, she's like confused. She sees Daenerys, I think, and is like, I don't know what to think about her.
She's kind of measuring.
Right.
Probably in Arya's head, can I kill her?
Right. I'm sure she does that with everybody. Then she saw Jon and just like this smile kind of cracked on her face because she hadn't seen Jon since the first season of this show.
Since he left for the Night's Watch.
Yeah, they were the closest, I think, of all the siblings were Jon and Arya. So we got that reunion later, but when they kept walking through, we saw Gendry, and we saw her reaction to seeing Gendry for the first time since like season 3, I think, or something. Yeah, it's been a long time.
The Hound too.
The Hound as well. Like just seeing everything filtered through her face is pretty cool. Everyone also looks a little bit older now. It's been, like I said, almost 2 years since they, probably shot last 2 in between the 2 seasons and everything. So like Arya especially because she was very young. I mean, like she's like 20, I think now or something, or 21. So she definitely looks a little bit older than the last time we saw her in the last season. We didn't see Brienne of Tarth. Come to think of it, wonder where she's at.
We saw her standing behind Sansa when they were greeted. Because you saw Podrick right next. You saw Podrick
in the background.
She was directly behind Sansa.
Right. We didn't get a scene with her yet, though. No.
I want to see her and Tormund.
Yes, absolutely. We did get Tormund toward the end of this episode, but like I said, we'll get to all that stuff. But I just really liked the opening scene. It was cool to sort of be reintroduced to these characters through Arya's facial expressions and everything. Yeah. I really liked the angle they took on that. From there, it just all kind of business. I mean, it's not business as usual, but it's like all business. Jon like sees Bran for the first time, and he like gives him a kiss on the forehead. He hasn't seen him in such a long time. Bran, we all know now, is just completely cold to everybody. Yeah. So, yeah, man, it's a little heartbreaking because Jon's like so excited to see his brother, and Bran's not all there anymore.
Yeah, he's like, you're a man now, and he had this genuine smile on his face. Almost. Yeah. And Jon's just kind of confused, and then Daenerys kind of pops up, and they do the introductions to Sansa.
With Sansa and everything, and there's definitely some tension there. The big thing with Jon in this episode was that he gave up his crown of being the king in the north that all the Northmen gave him, or the northern families, all that, to join forces with Daenerys and kind of bend the knee. He didn't actually bend the knee. Obviously, he was in bed from being almost killed with that battle with the Night King. Yeah. But he did pledge his allegiance to her as the queen, as his queen, as the realm's queen. So he gave that up,
and pretty much on behalf of the entire North.
Right. I mean, he did it. He did it to protect everyone, and but I think that Sansa brought it up later that like, did you bow to protect the North, or did you bow because you love her? And if you remember at the end of last season, Daenerys was ready to join forces anyway.
Yeah.
And then Jon said, "Oh, I can't get out of bed, but I would kneel or whatever." So
yeah,
I think she probably would have went along. They would have figured out the whole queen thing later, I think. But Jon is in love with his aunt.
Yeah. I mean, from what we've seen, it's not as bad as Jaime and Cersei. It's still pretty bad.
I mean, they're still boning.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the tasteful-ish side of the fuckery.
Tasteful incest? I don't know if that's such a thing. I don't know if that's really a thing. Tasteful incest.
Well, at least since they don't know.
Right.
Well, now.
Well, I know now. Well, let's do it this way. Let's keep on Daenerys and Jon's storylines here, and then we'll branch off. So we're gonna skip around the episode a little bit, but we'll keep on Jon and Daenerys' storyline. So Daenerys is concerned because obviously the North people don't like her. The North people don't like any outsiders really. So she's going to kind of have to earn their trust somehow. She brought all these people with her. They all have to be fed, as Sansa was saying, especially the dragons. And I like when they came up to her, it was like, oh, the dragons are barely eating because they only ate 18 goats and 11 lambs or something like that. Going to that scene with the dragon riding, Jon actually dragon rode in this episode, which was crazy.
Yeah.
That was like a roller coaster, man. Like they went into that valley and stuff, and it was a little like, whoa.
And it's like, okay, is he riding the dragon because the dragons can sense that he's a Targaryen?
I think that they're more docile to him because they can sense he's a Targaryen. Because we saw that in the last season where he went to touch
Drogon.
Yeah, and he let him do it. So so and he kind of controlled. I can't remember the name of the other dragon at the end.
Yeah.
He pulled him that way, and then the dragon went with him. So he said that she ruined horse riding for him. Daenerys did now because
and then they had their little moment with the waterfall.
We could stay here for 1,000 years.
Oh, we'd be really old.
Yeah,
you're so smooth, Jon Snow.
I know. He's gotten some of the best gals in the Seven Kingdoms.
That's true. Yeah. But I absolutely loved when Jon was kissing Daenerys and Drogon.
Man,
the dragons are just dead staring at him, and it was so funny because they left the camera on Drogon just looking at him like, I'm watching you.
He's like, I'm watching you, or it's like, that's your aunt, bro.
Yeah, even the dragons know
even the dragons
messed up.
So for Daenerys' part of this, we saw that she was, like I said, not really getting along with North people, or they're not getting along with her. She's trying to be kind of nice, but she's also always kind of has that slight underlining thing of arrogance. She's always kind of had that. Since the middle of the first season, I guess. She kind of has to, but I mean, as brought up later, did she have to kill these people? Let's talk about the Samuel Tarly meeting. Samuel Tarly.
That was rough.
Yeah, that actor's great, man. The guy who plays Samuel Tarly, I forgot his name. He was on Conan a couple weeks ago. He seems like a very relatable, really funny guy.
Yeah.
I hope to see him pop up in some more stuff after this. But that scene was heart-wrenching. So he meets Daenerys for the first time.
And she's thanking him for bringing Jorah Mormont.
Yeah, Jorah's with her. Yeah,
and the brink of the dragon scale.
The scale, the grayscale.
Right? Grayscale.
Right. So, oh man, so that scene was very intense. At first, started off very cordial. He's like, "Oh, I'm happy to serve my queen," or whatever that's going on, and he's being his usual charming self. And then she drops the bomb that kind of comes up in conversation. He wants to go home because he's got the sword. Heartsbane, his family of Valerian steel sword, and that's not going to happen the way he thought it was going to happen because his brother and his father are both killed by Daenerys.
Burnt alive.
We know that Randall Tarly was not a good man.
He's a piece of shit.
He was a piece of garbage, but the brother was not really a bad guy. He was standing up for his father and his family when he died.
Yeah.
And if you remember, that was the exact thing that Tyrion said in the last season. Was like, maybe the father should have died, not the son.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is kind of coming back to bite her in the ass. So she obviously felt some kind of sympathy because she kind of, Samuel did so much for her in saving Jorah that, I think she kind of feels like she owes him.
His emotion when she told him.
Great acting.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And she could tell, and he, instead of immediately lashing out, he's trying to hold it back, but he's like, can I be excused?
Right.
And she's like, yes, of course. And you could tell that it affected her too.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I think those two are gonna have some type of
confrontation.
Yeah,
something's gonna happen there.
Yeah.
So that was basically the biggest part for Daenerys in this episode. So following Jon after that, I mean, he's down in the crypts looking at Ned's carving, the stone carving. And that's where Sam confronts him and trips, of course, because he's Sam Tarly.
Yeah.
And he confronts Jon and lays it all out on the table. This is what this episode, I guess, was building up to. This is what we've been waiting for a million years, it feels like.
Yeah.
For Jon to finally find out that he is the true heir to the Iron Throne.
I didn't expect them to kind of lead into it in the first episode. I kind of expected something to draw it out, at least
it's so
second
short.
episode.
There's only 6 episodes. I feel like this is planted now, so there's going to be these seeds of dissension between Daenerys and Jon now. So they're kind of going to be playing that up of like, are you going to be able to trust each other as they're fighting the Night King and the Army of the Dead and all that stuff?
Yeah.
You know, is that going to happen with the White Walkers? Are they going to really be able to rely on each other that much once Daenerys finds out that he's, number one, her nephew,
yeah,
and number two,
the rightful king.
The rightful king, but also she loved her brother who she never even met, right?
Yeah.
So like, you know, she's heard all these stories that Jorah has told, and all these people have told her about how great of a prince he was and everything.
Yeah.
And how great of a king he would have been, and now that's his son.
And she can see how good of a man he is. So.
Yeah, in more ways than one, again. So that's going to be a complicated emotional issue that they're going to be going
Sam said
through.
it really well. You know, he said that Jon gave up his crown for the Northmen.
And he's full of emotion at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, for what he just found out.
Yeah.
So, like, he's saying that she shouldn't be the queen because you're the rightful king, number one. Number two, that you're a more righteous person than she is. Like I said, Daenerys has that little bit of a chip on her shoulder. You know, whether it's earned or not, it's there. And if you cross her, she's going to kill you. Jon's going to have some kind of... He's going to take each thing as it comes and sort of weigh all the options before he actually executes somebody in his service or whatever. So he does not... That's like a last resort thing for him.
Yeah. He always looks to do it with a sense of large regret.
Right, absolutely.
Even when he was hanging... cutting the rope to hang the Night's Watch brothers that killed him, he still looked somewhat remorseful.
And
like,
he walked
you guys
right
are bastards for killing me, but damn it.
He didn't want to do it, yeah. So, I mean, like, he has that in him as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they interact. Moving on from Jon and Daenerys, I think that's most of the stuff in this episode for them.
No, I do want to talk about Jon. He's out at the Weir Tree or whatever it's called. The Weir.
Oh, when he meets Arya again.
When
he
sees Arya,
course. That's great.
And you hear from behind him, you used to be a lot taller.
Yeah.
And he's like, "How did you sneak up on me?"
Yeah, right.
And it's just
he has no idea.
Yeah.
He has no idea.
And they run and they hug and they're laughing and they start comparing swords and sees that she still has needle and have you ever used it? And once or twice. Yeah.
Understatement, Arya. Understatement.
Yeah, but they're bipolar. You could see the emotion on his face because they showed his face from when he was hugging her. It looked like he was almost crying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you could tell that was like she's his favorite for sure.
Well, they're the closest of all of the Stark kids. That they were extremely close growing up and everything. So yeah, it was a great time to actually see them engage again and actually interact with each other after so long. So that was awesome. Speaking of Arya. She got to go to the blacksmith area where Gendry is forging all this dragon glass weapons, and we see the Hound. He made a big dragon glass axe for the Hound, and they have like a funny little interaction. Then Arya comes in, and these are two people that she hasn't seen in a long time. She has a ton of history with, and Hound is like, "You left me to die." He's very, you can't tell when he's really upset, but he's like, "Oh, it's this person."
Yeah.
And then Arya's reaction to that is like she's a very different character from the last time that they interacted. So
yeah, he's like, "You left me to die," and she's like, "I robbed you first."
Right.
Like,
you cold little bitch. Yeah.
It's the reason why you're still alive. It's like, all right.
She walks off. He walks off. Yeah, and then her and Gendry's reunion is a much more tender one, obviously. Yeah. I mean, like we said before, Arya's a much different character than in the earlier season. She's so hardened. Not even just battle hardened or anything like that, or being a murderer. Just her emotions are, they seep out as we see once in a while through little cracks. But for the most part, she's very composed now.
Yeah.
So like none of that's that kind of stuff comes out of her anymore. But with Gendry kind of knows how to get under her skin, as we saw when they were interacting in the first couple seasons.
Yeah.
I think the third season was the last time they saw each other, whatever. And we saw him kind of get under her skin a little bit. And there was always, kind of a little flirting there going on now because Arya's older. She's in her 20s now.
Yeah.
Or at least, Maisie Williams is. I don't know exactly how old Arya's supposed to be, but
Yeah, I can't even.
yeah, but still. Them interacting, there's a little hint of like romantic kind of things going on there too.
He got a little flustered, like saying that she looked good. Like,
Right, you look good. Yeah. Still rolling.
yeah, still rolling.
That was great. I think that was the end of Arya's main stuff in here. Sansa, she had like a decent amount of scenes, but this was just her kind of reminding Jon that, you shouldn't have given up your crown. These people wanted you to be their king and all that. So Sansa didn't have too much going on in this episode. Tyrion, we could talk about a little bit, right? Did you have something else to say about that?
I was about to say, she just, saw Tyrion.
Right, exactly. So that was a great reunion.
Yeah.
Interesting. The roles have been flopped a little bit.
Yeah. And just seeing these people, like, make eye contact from a distance, and the last time was so long ago and under such ridiculous circumstances. I mean, the last time Sansa saw Tyrion was right when Joffrey died, and she was spirited away.
She was gone.
So, I mean, like...
So they have a little conversation about that. Tyrion seems to be more trusting. I think he knows something that we don't know about the Cersei thing. Because remember they had that little personal conversation that I don't think we saw?
Yeah, we saw it. She says something about the kid, and
yeah, but didn't I think there? Or maybe it's a fan theory or something that they made some kind of secret pact, where that's maybe why he trusts her a little bit more than everyone else or something. But anyway, yeah, that scene there was interesting. Then we see Davos talking with Tyrion and Viserys, yeah, Varys,
my bad.
So many, and all the names are very similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, that little trifecta there, kind of, deciding what they think should happen.
The trio of council.
Right. That's kind of like the new Queen's Council, I guess. Right.
Yeah.
That's basically it now.
That's a good council to have.
No, it is absolutely. And they're all three pretty much good guys. I mean, Varys is like, I don't know.
He's like morally gray.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But he's not morally evil.
Yeah.
Really. I don't know.
It's like a chaotic neutral.
But I don't know if he's chaotic. He's like.
Not lawful neutral.
Yeah, I don't know. You guys could figure that out. But that was a decent scene too. I think that covers most of the stuff at Winterfell, except at the end we see that Jaime Lannister shows up.
Yeah.
And then we see him lock eyes with Bran, and he's just...
His face just pales.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh shit.
Right, and we saw in the preview for next week that he's confronted by Daenerys because Jaime, the Kingslayer, her father is the king he slayed.
Yes.
So that's going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it feels like the themes so far are confronting your past and dealing with those mistakes and everything.
Yeah.
It seems not just even with Jaime. Obviously, that's going to be the main focus of the next episode. I mean, at least from what they showed us.
Yeah.
But, with Tyrion, kind of what's going on with Cersei and everything, and there's other stuff going on, with Arya and the Hound and all this stuff kind of coming back up because everyone's meeting again. So these themes of, like, getting kind of maybe a comeuppance or... The loose ends are being tied up, I should say.
For sure.
For sure. We're going to see, what the tone of these next few episodes are going to be. I can't believe there's only 5 left. That's crazy. I think that covered everything at Winterfell.
Yes.
And then we go to King's Landing. This is with Cersei and Euron. Yara, who is still the prisoner of Euron, is finally back with the Golden Company from Essos.
And they're back. They came to King's Landing
to protect Cersei and everything. I think they said 20,000 men.
Yeah.
A bunch of horses.
2,000 horses, yeah.
And there's supposed to be elephants, but there were no elephants. That was a big sticking point for Cersei in this episode. For
really wanted those elephants.
Really wanted those elephants. So they have a very interesting scene. Well, first of all, Theon comes in, frees Yara. When, it kills a bunch of people, then frees Yara.
Yeah. And they actually get away with it. I did not expect them to get away with it.
Yeah, they got away with it, all right. There's no more Ramsay to stop them. So...
Yeah.
So they go back back to the Iron Islands, but Theon really wants to go fight with the Starks because that's where he grew up. That's more, I think, of his family even than the Greyjoys are because he grew up with them and they were good to him, his whole life, and he didn't return the favor until later when he realized the error of his ways.
Yeah.
When choppy. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know. But it'll be interesting to see him come back too. So everyone's coming into Winterfell, man.
Yeah.
Yara went back to the Iron Islands to have some kind of fallback position, which, the Iron Islands are semi-near Winterfell, so there is kind of a strategy to that, but I think that she kind of just
doesn't
want to
be
go
there.
there.
No, it's just...
We get it. So we'll see what happens with that. But at King's Landing, Cersei and Euron have a big conversation. Euron was promised to bang the queen, I guess.
Well, at least after the war.
Well, they didn't wait.
No, he was being petulant,
right?
As, she said.
Exactly. So we get the introduction to the leader of the Golden Company. He leaves, and they have that big conversation. The mountain's just staring him down, just like Drogon was staring on Jon.
Yeah.
And they go back and they bone, apparently.
Yeah.
And we still don't know if Cersei is really pregnant or not. I think she is, but maybe she isn't. I don't know. But, you know, she gets a very kind of somber look on her face when he says that he's going to put a prince in her belly, because maybe there's already a prince in her belly.
Yeah, and then as he leaves, her facade kind of cracks a little. We see a little bit, like, almost like she was going to cry. And it's like, is that because she's lying about a kid? You know, did they maybe just conceive a kid and she worried about that? Is she missing Jaime? You know,
I'm sure she is missing Jaime.
You know, what's up with that? It's just, it's interesting to see her crack a little bit.
Yeah, so that was some interesting stuff, but I think the most interesting stuff at King's Landing happened with Bronn.
Yes.
Now, first of all, I want to talk about this. They opened up on this little weird sex scene thing. It's not weird because it's Game of Thrones, but I mean, it felt like the last 2 seasons, they've really cut way back on the sex scenes and stuff like this, and this is pretty gratuitous, this one. So, I don't know if it was like, oh, this is Game of Thrones, we got to make sure, it's been a long time, we got to put this sex shit in there right now.
Could be.
Maybe, I don't know, but it was kind of, it just, for the last few seasons, it seemed, it's
there's
not
been
out
nudity,
of place. Right.
There's been nudity, but
there's not been like this kind of sex scene or whatever. I'm not like super complaining about it because that's the show, but also it just, I don't want to say it was out of place, but it felt a little bit jarring because that hasn't been seen in so long, like this, you know, that kind of thing. So, and it really didn't serve much purpose. I mean, it was basically just with Qyburn coming in.
Yeah, a little coitus interruptus.
Little freak coming in and interrupting them and giving Bronn a bow and saying that Cersei wants you to kill her brothers.
If they're not killed by the whites.
Right. So that's another thing, another seed planted that we're going to see what's going to happen.
Yeah,
obviously, Bronn...
it was like a wagon with like 2 chests of gold in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that she already left and paid in advance to him. So.
And Bronn's just like, man, this family.
Yeah,
and it's just like, fucking family.
Yeah, man. So, you know, him and Tyrion, Bronn and Tyrion have had such a camaraderie in those earlier seasons, and we saw them interact again last season.
For sure.
Yeah, but even though Bronn doesn't really want to admit that, they are friends. And also, he's gotten closer with Jaime. He saved his life in that big battle on the. I guess that was last season, right? Was that the beginning of last season?
Yeah.
It feels like so long ago. That big fight where Daenerys had brought in one of the dragons and just torched the Lannister army.
Yeah.
And Bronn saved him. So he has a connection with him now too.
And
so
he trained him too. And
they
were fighting in Dorne and
so they have a history as well. Obviously, I don't think as close as Tyrion and him, but there is some kind of connection. So it's going to be interesting to see what Bronn does. A lot of people really like Bronn.
I love Bronn. I think he's a fantastic character.
I like him too, but it's also like we're getting down to the end game here. Like, would I be super upset if he dies? Like, yes, I would.
I would.
But, like, compared to everyone else, it's like, if he's going to about to kill Tyrion or something, and, like, someone kills him first, like Arya stabs him with a needle in the back, then, like, I'd be like, you had to go, Bronn.
If I have to choose Bronn or Tyrion, I'm going to choose Tyrion to live, but still, it's...
Bronn or Jaime? New remorseful Jaime.
That's a tough choice. Because I like Bronn as a character, where Jaime's come so far.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm really looking forward to this next episode.
He's one of the biggest changes from the first episode to now.
Him and Theon, I think, are the biggest changes. Yeah, for sure. Theon was this just dick.
Yeah. Pompous.
Who lost that and then came back later.
Yeah.
He's a loyal. He's gotten back part of what made him who he was before all that stuff with Ramsay, but he's still not a whole person.
No.
But I think going back to Winterfell will help kind of rectify his identity a little bit more. So we'll see what happens with that. Jaime is very, very, very different. He was even more pompous, I think, than Theon was, right? Yeah. Didn't care about pushing Bran out the window, didn't care about all this stuff, and now he's very remorseful about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And to see him in Winterfell and confronting his past sins, that's going to be some exciting television, and I'm very excited to see
Yeah, basically, I mean, the last time we saw Jaime before this season was him on the outskirts of the capital city,
King's Landing.
King's Landing.
Yeah.
Putting on a glove, seeing the snow coming down,
Right.
and leaving Cersei.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time we see him do really anything of note in the series is pushing Bran out the window.
Yep.
And he says, "All the things I do for love."
Yep.
And
I remember.
So it's like, wow, that is
Yeah.
a huge thing. And now the first thing we see on this season is seeing Bran
Yeah.
at Winterfell.
Yeah,
Like,
it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
that was one of the biggest, like, oh shit moments of the episode for me. It was just seeing...
Not the biggest, obviously, since
Well,
Jon found out, but yeah, one of, for sure.
Yeah, one of the biggest for sure.
Oh, boy. So, I mean, is there anything else you want to say about this episode? I think we covered just about everything.
Well, we got to talk about the Last Hearth.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
you
so
break that one down.
we see an aerial shot of this this little very small hall, and like it looks like the wall's broken in, and furniture and everything is everywhere. There's snow everywhere, and there's tons of blood everywhere, all over the place. But there's no bodies. And you see Tormund and what's the Brothers Without Banners guy name?
Beric Dondarrion.
Beric Dondarrion, and the rest of the guys who were on the wall
Right.
when it came down. Obviously, the ones who survived.
Mm.
So they're walking through this place, and they don't see any bodies. So obviously, the White Walkers have been through there, killed everybody, and they're part of the army.
The Whites.
And they end up running into what's his name?
Pip.
Pip.
I think it's Pip, yeah.
Yeah, from the Night's Watch.
Mm-hmm.
And like, holy shit! Oh, look, his eyes are blue. My eyes have always been blue. But
He's the Lord Commander now, Pip is. So
Yeah.
Whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
Not much.
He says that they came down from the Night's Watch to come, I don't know, to check on the Last Hearth or what. He didn't
I don't
really
know,
say
but
why
the
he was-
wall's broken, so it's like, what are they defending now? I
Yeah.
don't know. I think maybe they're trying to get to Winterfell too.
And they see this boy that we saw earlier on in this episode.
The Umber boy.
Yeah, the Umber boy.
He was Lord Umber.
Lord Umber, yeah.
So
Of the Last Hearth, that's what they called it, the Last Hearth.
Mm.
And that's what we saw in the opening too, near the wall in the beginning opening credits of the show, which are new.
Oh
by the
yeah.
way.
Oh, that was great, wasn't it?
It was
so
really
much more
detailed.
Yeah,
absolutely detailed.
We saw the outside of the buildings and the castles and everything being built up in the earlier seasons, but now we went inside of them. We saw like the crypts in Winterfell and all, like the Great Hall and all that stuff, and then King's Landing. We saw Balerion's giant dragon skull, and then we see the Red Keep and the throne room and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, so well done.
And so in the beginning, when we see the hole in the wall, it goes from the hole in the wall, and it goes really like not too far from the hole in the wall, and there's this little tiny settlement, and it says Last Hearth.
Okay.
And that's what it was. Yeah.
Mm.
And so they find something, and they go into this other room, and it's that kid, Lord
Lord Umber.
Umber, nailed to the wall, and he's got all of these arms forming this symbol around him.
Right, the same symbol the White Walkers keep using.
Yeah, that's right.
Like going around him, this circular kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then he's out of focus in the background with like Tormund, I think was in focus in the foreground.
Yeah. And he's
and his eyes
away
open.
from him.
Yeah. And his eyes open, and they're the white eyes, and oh my god.
Yeah, blue eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, white, WIH.
Oh yeah.
Because he's a white now.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was like.
Yeah. And
And
then
they stabbed him with
Baron
Beric stand and lit
was
everything
crazy.
on fire.
And so Tormund's like, the Night King and his army are between us and Winterfell.
Right. So
Holy
they gotta
shit.
get past them.
Yeah.
That's going to be another. So that we've set up all the obstacles for the 5 remaining episodes.
Yeah.
Everything's set in stone here in terms of where we think we're going to go. All the seeds have been planted. Now it's going to be what's going to happen. I think that this episode did a really good job at reintroducing everybody. It didn't feel like, it's been so long, and like I said, like some of the actors look older and stuff. Especially Lyanna Mormont looked a little bit older, obviously, because she was.
She's pretty young.
Yeah, she's very, very young in the 7th season when we saw her last. So. She looks older. A lot of the characters, Sansa even.
She's
looks
still
older.
a badass too.
Oh, she's still a badass. Yeah, she was the first one who called out Jon for giving up his crown. But I thought this episode did a really good job at reintroducing everything, setting everything up. Jon already knows that he's a Targaryen. He knows he's like supposed to be the leader, the king. That's his rightful spot. So all that stuff is set up and ready to go.
Sixth of his name.
So that's all ready to go. All the other storylines are set in place. I'm interested to see where they go with Jaime and everything, and Cersei, and how that stuff's going to work out with Bran and everything. So
yeah, we did see from the previews that Tormund does make it to Winterfell, and he says they got like a day, and it's like, holy shit. So I'm thinking next episode is going to be the big setup. It's going to be the big setup.
Prepare for war.
Prepare for war. We're gonna have the conflicts
on Easter. Is it going to go up? Is it going on next week still?
Yeah, I
think so. It's going to be a special Easter edition of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I'm not even going to get into
with
that.
extra blood.
Yeah. So I think next episode is going to be them setting it up. We're going to have the confrontation at Jaime.
I'm
and
excited
Bran and Daenerys
and Tyrion, of course. We're going to see them interact again.
But then it's going to be a full-blown balls to the wall. Let's get set up, and I'm pretty sure that episode's going to end with them seeing the whites, the army at the gates of Winterfell. Yeah, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And then,
Well, so overall, I think I gave my thoughts on this episode. Any other things that you thought overall the episode, how it did in terms of reintroducing us and everything?
I think it did really well. I mean, we get to see where everybody's at, where everybody's head is, kind of, and we got to really kind of almost fully tie up a lot of these loose ends. And it was really, it was a lot of payoff in this episode, but setting up for the future. But it's still a lot of payoff for a first episode. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm so excited.
Yeah, I am too, man. It's so great. So I know a lot of people don't watch these on this channel. I know we only get a couple hundred views, but for the people who do watch it, I know that there's not a lot of crossover with like the Channel Awesome stuff I do, but we love Game of Thrones. You gotta talk about it, man.
Absolutely.
So leave your thoughts in the comments below about what you thought of this first episode, where you think they're going to go with the 5 remaining episodes. And, I'm just very excited, so I just want to see more right away.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we maybe have talked about this the last time we did the reviews, but I would have absolutely paid to see these in the theater every week.
100%.
I think they're losing out on money and not doing that, man.
Yeah, I would definitely see them.
Yeah, these are obviously, movie quality. If not higher than that. So, I would love to have seen these in a theater every week. Every Sunday, just go to the theater and watch the Game of Thrones episode. Would have gladly paid.
Oh, I would have paid
$5 to $10 to go and see that.
At least. Yeah, so, every week for sure.
Yeah, that would have been great. But, watching it at home is still extremely exciting. So, I'm hyped up for the last 3 episodes.
I get to act like a fool if anybody dies or anything crazy happens and not be ridiculed.
Yeah, when Jon's reveal came up with Sam, I just got up and I knocked something over.
And he's trying to fix something. I'm like, don't worry about it. Let's watch the show.
Just watch it. Oh,
man, it was crazy. Right in front of the TV, just oh my god, what's happening?
We walked up to it just what's he gonna do? His reaction was appropriate too. He was tearing up and saying that he thought that Ned died. Ned kind of betrayed him by lying to him for his whole life, but he was protecting him, as Sam said. So yeah man.
But and having Lyanna's statue in the background as he's telling him that was really, really good.
Perfect mise en scène.
Great shot.
Yes, good stuff. So that's our Game of Thrones review for episode 1 of season 8.
Oh, one thing. Arya gave something to Gendry, and there was a brief shot. I don't know. I couldn't tell.
It was a list or something?
It was a diagram.
It was a battle... Yeah, weapon.
It was some type of weapon. She was asking if he could make it, and he's like, "You already have a sword and a Valyrian steel dagger." But so she's making this weapon. We only saw a little brief glimpse of it. I'm gonna see if I could freeze frame it later and see what it was.
It looked like a staff or something, maybe.
Yeah,
with
but it looked like
dragon glass on the edge.
Came apart or something.
Yeah,
like that. I don't know.
Maybe.
But it's
that'd be cool to see. Yeah, that's good. That's a cool.
Gonna have some cool gear.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, man. I'm just looking forward to next week.
Yeah, there's just so much to think about. And
yep, absolutely. And I've read the first book in between these two things, so I got a little more perspective on that. So it's fun to kind of have a little bit more knowledge about Game of Thrones and stuff going into the season. I would love to pick up the world. I already have the World of Fire and Ice, but the
Fire and Blood.
Fire and Blood, yeah, the history of the Targaryen kings. I would love to pick that up. I would love to pick up Winds of Winter if George R. R. Martin ever finishes it. And I got to get through the other books first. They just announced an illustrated edition of A Storm of Swords.
Really?
The second book in the
series.
The
one that you, the one you got, yeah.
So they just announced. So I'm gonna get that. It's coming out in November. So that's probably when I'll start reading the second book. But yeah, it looks really cool. It looks like the first one, except it's green, and they got a bunch of new illustrations in there. So I'm definitely gonna get that.
I'll eventually read it. I just sat.
Do your Audible thing. Listen to it.
Listen to a lot of audiobooks. That's a long listen. It's like 40-something hours.
Yeah, I believe it, man. It's long. I think it was the third or fourth book is like extremely long. So. Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that stuff. But anyway, that was our Game of Thrones review for this week. We'll be back next week. I mean, it's Easter, so I'll come. I might have to come out here a little bit later, but we'll work it out.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a little Easter shindig at the old Benaziac household. So I'll be back here at some point, and we'll get that review up probably Monday morning or something next week. But we haven't seen you in a while. So what's going on, Brian Porter?
Nothing much. Got a different job, starting a new career path, so that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
You know.
Got a couple questions about you at C2E2 this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, people are still asking about you, so I just want everyone to know that he's alive and well.
I am.
He's okay.
Just had my wisdom teeth out. That was great.
Oh, yeah, that's never fun.
So fun.
Never
so
fun. All right.
Yeah, I actually, I was getting ready to do that right before or right after C2E2. It's like, I could have gone to C2E2.
Well,
gotta get my wisdom teeth out.
You had some problems, so you gotta get those fixed, man. Health is more important.
Yes.
As we all know.
So that's what's going on with me.
All right. Well, we'll get to catch up with you some more as we go along this season. I'm really excited to keep watching these episodes, man. So,
yeah, it's...
Again, leave the comments below about what you guys thought of the episode and what you think about what's coming up and everything. Any theories you have or whatever, let us know. And we'll talk to you next week, guys. Thanks for watching.
See you later.
Bye.